now we have a time constraint. So thank you, His Holiness. We have to now stop here, I think so. We would like to listen you, sir, but as per the schedule now given, we have to wind up inaugural session, and it's my proud privilege to express the gratitude words towards His Holiness for the inaugural talk. And as he has nicely mentioned, and everybody will definitely agree, that he beautifully expressed the mother relation with a loving kindness. And he Holiness has said that children are actually have a pure mind, and that's why, Holiness, we have decided that only kids will welcome you because they do not have any differentiation of caste and creed and anything, any language. So we are really...
Yes.
Yes. So we are very privileged to listen you, His Holiness. This journey, I tell you all, we are really have happiest moment, proud moment of Department of Philosophy. It's honor actually to have His Holiness for the inaugural session. And this journey begins last 31st December 2017, and now our dream came true this moment. There are many peoples who have supported us for this proud moment to have His Holiness for this inaugural session, and I would like to express my gratitude towards these people. My special thanks. My special thanks to our Minister, Social Justice Minister, Badoleji, for his presence and as a guest lecture. This event would not be possible without the support of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, and our registrar and the other dignitaries who have literally suggested how to frame it and how to make this event possible. They have given their valuable time, because this is a knack time, and still our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Pro Vice Chancellor, and registrar and the other dignitaries are with us. We are really thank you to all the authorities of University of Mumbai. I really thank to all my organizing committee of the team. We have Professor Devere, whose presence in the meeting was very appreciative and very helpful for this event. Our friend Professor Sandeshwa, who has literally helped me throughout, and literally he was there with us through all over the journey, and because of him I got so many volunteers, and of course my volunteers are there with us, but he has also provided like Sikandar Khan and other people, so it helps a lot for us. My gratitude to my our alumni, Dr. Nisha Thakkar and her team, for presenting the theme note. And they have a habit to present their performance in a musical way, but on theme of Maitri, they have literally given 2 months practice, and they presented before all. So thank you, Nisha, for your valuable presence and your team. Thank you so much. I would like to tell His Holiness, as he said, that we have to follow the inner values. And Venerable, I can tell you that now we're literally following equality, and you can see that my non-teaching staff is sitting in the 2nd row, and our actual faculty is sitting in the 3rd row. So we are really following that equality, and our Buddhi study center we have in our department, and it's our we are putting our effort for this, and we have a Vipassana center and we have the courses which are literally talking about these inner values. We are trying our best to discuss all these in an academic way. And this 3 days conference, as you have talk about Maitri, loving kindness and all, we are trying our best to discuss, have a dialogue within 3 days. So we have a 3 days international conference, and this 3 days international conference is not possible without the invited speakers and our invited speakers from abroad and all over India. I really thank to all my invited speakers and my non-teaching staff as well as non-teaching staff and the admin staff of all over university. They help us a lot. Now I cannot say that my thanks I have to give to the, of course, His Holiness team, security. They have completely cooperated, and this event was possible when I met to Venerable Professor Samtenji in Tibetan University Sarnath. He himself introduced me with Takaji, His Holiness Secretary, and with their guidance I have decided this plan, and it helped us. It's just a 1 year correspondence with that, and this moment has happened. So I really thank you, Takaji, for your all suggestion, support, and all the security team and our university security team with us since 2 months. We are working together, and they have helped us a lot. Our sincere thanks to BKC Police and all the senior authorities. And my volunteers are there definitely, but history department volunteers and other are there. All infrastructure facility we got from engineering department, to special thanks to our chief engineer Vinodji Patil. My sincere thanks to GAD staff and Madam Suchitra Pagareji's team. Thank you so much for all that effort they have put for this moment. Last but not the least, this concept of Maitri and the calling His Holiness for the inaugural idea, it was my friend's Professor Geeta Ramanna's idea. And she just said that last March 17, she said, we can call His Holiness. And I said, oh really, is it possible? So now see, if you put your efforts, anything can be possible. And this moment is actually the witness of our effort. And of course, idea, dream and efforts go together, and that's why when I begin that zindagi ek khoobsurat sapna hai. Yes, it's really a beautiful dream, but if you want to fulfill this dream, you have to open your mind, means you have to put your efforts, and we have tried our best to put our efforts, and the dream come to this moment. We are all enjoying it. This is all our proud privilege. Everybody is getting the blessing of His Holiness with His presence. So we are really proud to have you, His Holiness. My thanks I would like to say in the end that, as he said, that loving kindness, we have to follow this loving kindness and inner voice. So I would like to say with these words that, as he said, we have to respect everybody. So we have to respect the person. We should not respect the chair or a position. In this beautiful word, I would like to end this gratitude words that मैत्री की भावना सबको दिल से जोड़ती है. ना कोई अपना होता है, ना पराया होता है. हर कोई एक बन के रह जाता है. नैतिक शिक्षा का हाथ पकड़ के शांति का राही बन जाता है. And that is what the that is what the essence of His Holiness talk that I feel. Thank you so much, all of you, all the dignitaries of the dais, on the dais, and all the participants who had come all over the India. Yeah.
See, we thought in translation from Pali mainly, mainly Sanskrit, then also some Pali, all together since 8th century, the Tibetan, or say, Tibetan emperor invited at that time Nalendra, top master, Chandra Rakshita. So he introduced the Buddhism according to Nalendra tradition. That some special thing is we use extensively logical approach. Study, investigate. So Pali tradition is the foundation of Buddha Dharma. Mainly Buddha's, according to Sanskrit tradition, three Dharma wheel. First Dharma wheel recorded that Pali tradition. Then the second Dharma wheel as Rajagiri, that's Panchaparamita Sutra. Then third Dhamma wheel. So these later two mainly recorded in Sanskrit. So the Shantarakshita, knowing all these things, he asked Tibetan emperor, since Tibet have their own language script, that Tibetan script also copy Devanagari script and alphabet kakakanga chachachanya like that. So he encouraged should start translation. Then you study Buddhism in your own language. Therefore, translation is important. I think Shantarakshita started translation. So altogether, then gradually, about 300 volumes, all translated from India. We study these books. So then, the content, these over 300 volumes, we can divide three parts. First, religion, Buddhism, and the second, philosophy, and another, and third, science. So we then try to compile about the part of science. So then firstly we publish in Tibetan, then this English translation, then also Chinese translation, Russian translation, already starting, Japanese translation also there, Mongolian translation, like that. So I want to give you this, the title Science and Philosophy in the Indian Buddhist classic. So you see, this book should just kept in library, should not be kept in library and remain very fresh. So people should use this, so eventually this book becomes something very kasada, or becomes old, then use, then good. Sometimes we Tibetan, some textbook, the above part, reading many times. So that portion bit kasada old. And then the later part, more philosophical, that always often remain very, very fresh. So that means they don't read, don't care. So this book should read and discuss, like that. Thank you.
Hello, Mike Chick, requesting people to remain at the places only, do not leave the seats. Sarvanna Vinanti hai, requesting all the people to remain standing as as His Holiness moves along with the dignitaries. Will, as a sign of a thank you, we'll just wave our hands for him for coming here and sharing all the knowledge with us and illuminating our minds. Do not move from the places, requesting people, please do not move from the places. You can. thank His Holiness and all the dignitaries. We can wave the hands for him as a gesture of a thank you for his coming and spending this precious time with us. We also thank all the other dignitaries who are present here.
In everyone's childhood, there is always one friend we will remember.
Isaac Isyam, Rachel and Joyce, and then lastly, Hidayat and Tab. Okay, class. The friend beside you is your buddy. This means you will have to take care of each other. Okay? Okay, class. Flip to chapter 3 of your workbook and we'll go through the answers.
He was naughty and annoying. He didn't pay attention in class. And he drew spiders. What are you doing? You shouldn't run.
Oi! Stop!
Take it. He followed my movements when we ate. Few understood him. I didn't either. I found it odd when he spoke to spiders during recess. I thought he was happy, especially when he drew spiders with 5 legs. When I told him that spiders have 8 legs, he got angry. There were times when he would throw a tantrum.
Okay, before your March holidays, we'll be having Captain's Ball tournament. And I want you to split yourselves into 2 groups, A and B. Hey, stop! Tom just doesn't understand the game. No big deal. You, see me in the office.
Are you okay? Tahan. Sorry. Sini.
Okay, class. Mental sums. Hidayat, tell me the answer. What's 45 plus 12?
57.
62 minus 10?
52.
38 plus 7?
45.
Good.
Yes.
Sit down.
Over time, I understood him better. He's intelligent, more so than many of us. He was also warm and can be likable.
Hey!
Mommy!
Stand straight. Hi! Thanks very much for taking care of my son.
No problem.
So how? Did he behave in school?
Good. Just haven't finished last page of homework. Me also.
You have to finish it. Otherwise your teacher is going to scold you, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Let's go.
Hey, Hidayat, basketball?
No, I need to do my homework.
This Tom?
Yeah. You know, he always talk to himself.
And he don't talk to us.
What happened? Cause mommy says I haven't finished my homework. I'm sorry. Sorry?
Begin.
I'm sorry, it's just,
Don't worry, it's just that Tom has a shorter attention span. But then again, you know, all children, they just need more time. We'll do our best to help him.
Thank you.
After he ran out of the examination room, there were many questions. There was one question on my mind. How can we help him? Ma'am Nashita, I was at a loss, and I went to the one person I thought could help me help him.
When my husband and I, we just wanted what was best for our son. We didn't know. Or maybe we did.
Mrs. Song, he's just like any other child. Really. Do you know what Hidayat sees in him? He sees him as the most intelligent student in school. And Tom is his most loyal friend. Look at them.
memory. ఏం తగ్గ నింజా అసలు ఏం అర్థం కాదు. apa ya recording? నేను ఫ్లాష్ బ్యాటర్ రెండే సెట్ నా దగ్గర
ఏ లేదు ఉన్నాయట కొన్నాడ కొని పెట్టిన నాకు ఇయ్యాను నాకు ఇట్లా మార్కెట్ అయిందా వచ్చి తీసుకొని ఇక ఇయ్యాను సెల్లులే ఫ్లాష్ ఈ యొక్క పైసలు కాదు కొత్త ఇవ్వండి కొత్త అవి యూజ్ చేయలేదట ఇది కూడా అవసరం రికార్డు మొత్తం అలా బొగ్గున వస్తుంది ఇంకోటి మనది కాబట్టి ఫోన్ తీసాను చలో అయిపోయింది
Akash Singh Rathod. Round of applause, please. I'd also like to call Venkat Bhante Rajratan from the University of Pune. A round of applause, please. Finally, the fourth panelist for the session, Dr. Manjiri Thakur, who's a painter and a visiting faculty from the Heras Institute, Mumbai. I would now like to give a short bio note for the speakers present over here. First, I would like to start with the chairperson for the event, Dr. Devika Shah. Dr. Devika Shah is a professor from the University of North Bengal. Her subject of specialization is modern Western philosophy, phenomenology, gender studies, postmodernism, and environmental ethics. Her areas of interest and research are majorly cultural studies and posthumanism. Her achievements and awards include Special Honor Awards for having acted as a member of the scientific community representing India in the 64th Congress of Phenomenology, which was held in Milan, Italy in 2014. She has served as one of the joint secretaries for the Indian Philosophical Congress. She has authored numerous books such as Darshaner Samasyabali, which is in Bengali, a translation of Bertrand Russell's Problems of Philosophy in 2002, as well as a book known as Redefining the Boundaries of Social Justice in a Global Age, a Critical Study. Now, Dr. Hune Margulis. Dr. Hune Margulis is a professor of philosophy at the Martin Buber Institute. He's also an author and a poet, currently residing in Goa. Presently, Dr. Hune Margulis is the founder and director of the Martin Buber Institute for Dialogical Ecology. Margulis completed his doctoral studies at Columbia University in New York. He holds a master's degree in philosophy from the Fordham University, as well as a master's degree in urbanism from Hunter College of City University of New York. Dr. Margulis taught at various universities in New York and lectured at different universities and cultural institutions around the world. He is also the author of the book Will and Grace, Meditations on the Dialogical Philosophy of Martin Buber. This book, in the philosophy of religion and in religious philosophy, focuses on the critical observation of theological principles, beliefs, and the institutions through a perspective that combines the insights from dialogical philosophy as well as some aspects of Zen Buddhism. Next, we have Akash Singh Rathod. Akash Singh Rathod is a professor, author, and an Ironman triathlete. He is an international fellow for the Center of Ethics and Global Politics, Louise, Rome, Italy. Director of International Research Network for Religion and Democracy, as well as the executive editor for Journal Plurilogue. He has taught at JNU and the universities of Delhi, Rutgers, Pennsylvania, Toronto, and Berlin. He is also the chief editor of B.R. Ambedkar, The Quest for Justice, 5 volumes, 2019, and the author of B.R. Ambedkar, A Definitive Biography. His 15 published books and other writings and video lectures are also available at www.akashsingrathwar.com. Next we have Dr. Manjari Thakur. Dr. Manjari Thakur is a visiting lecturer from the Sir J.J. School of Art and Mumbai University and former deputy curator of National Gallery of Modern Art, Mumbai. She has done a PhD in Buddhist sculpture from the University of Mumbai. She was the honored visiting curator at the Fresh Paint Contemporary Art Festival at Tel Aviv, Israel, on the invitation of the Israeli consulate. She has delivered numerous lectures as well as seminars such as Portrayal of Time, the narrative character of Ajanta cave paintings for Inlax Shivasdani Foundation at the National Gallery of Modern Art. She's also the chairperson for the History of Art and Craft, Interior Decoration, Mumbai University, as well as the joint chairperson for History of Art and Craft, Mumbai University. And finally, we have our final panelist, which is venerated Bhante Rajaratan. Mr. Bhante Rajaratan is from the University of Pune. I would now like to hand over the mic to Ms. Devika Shah and kindly start the session.
A very warm welcome to all of you. After the lunch, I think the session will start now, but I hope, as it is usual, after the lunch, we Indians are very, as it happens. But I will draw the attention of the assembled, those who are assembled here, for their kind attention to the papers that will be soon we will hear. Now, as I find, there are 4 speakers, and as there are 4 speakers, so we have enough time, I think up to 4:30 as far as my understanding goes. So up to 4:30, as it is there, I am primarily I am assigning the timing for half an hour. I think it will be okay for you people, for half an hour for your presentation, and 10-15 minutes for the discussion and all that. So as all the introductory lectures are over, let us not waste time and start with Professor Hun Margulis, Professor of Philosophy, Max Buber Institute, and please start your paper.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. There is a little typo that I like to clear up. It's not the Max Buber Institute, but it's the Martin Buber Institute. Maybe we'll establish a new institute. We'll call it Max at some point, but for now it's still the Martin Buber. The subject of my talk is the concept of metta, but particularly as it has found expression in Zen Buddhism. My interest is in Zen Buddhism primarily because Buddhism is a religious reformation of Hinduism. And then Zen is a religious reformation of Buddhism. They all share in common basic principles, but each manifests them in a different way. To give a summary of what metta is, and again, primarily drawing from Zen, which is part of Mahayana Buddhism, we can say that metta, well, we cannot say metta is considered to be one of the 4 abodes of Brahma. And from the point of view of Mahayana Buddhism, these meditative states, which are called Brahma Viharas, are quintessential characteristics of what is called the Buddha Dhatu, or Buddha nature, which means that metta is not a consequence of Buddhist practice, but it's a prerequisite for Buddhist practice. It does not arise from meditation, but meditation arises from metta. It is a pre-requirement. It is not a choice. It's something that we must have in order to begin the practice of Buddhism. But what is important to understand is that metta also means action. It is not only a feeling within. And this is very, very important, because oftentimes we refer to compassion as a feeling that we have toward other people or other beings. It is a feeling, but the key for metta is to understand that it's compassion in action. It has to be translated into human deeds. And that's what the word karuna, which is one aspect of metta, means specifically. The root of the word means action, is to be compassionate in deeds. So if we are compassionate as a feeling, as an emotion, as a platitude, we're missing the concept of metta. And that is an important distinction, because we have to probably look at metta and realize that it's a deep intention. But it's a deep intention that cannot be actualized except in the relationship between people. This is where the dialogical aspect of my talk comes up. Even the Dalai Lama said we need to start dialogue. I'd make a small distinction with that, but I would say that the concept of metta, if we translate that into Western philosophy, the closest that it comes is with the philosophy of Martin Buber when he speaks of I and thou relationships. The Dalai Lama himself was talking about not making the distinction of us and them or we and there, because those distinctions are false and objectivizes the other person as being different than what I am. Buber was basically describing that as relationships of I and it. When I make other people an it. The I is the relationship of metta. Let's take an example to understand the concept a bit better. We'll compare it with Western philosophy in brief, which is Socrates. Socrates had a quandary, and he said, how is it possible that we can understand good and bad, or good and right, evil and not evil? We can understand that, and yet we will not pursue the good. We will still do evil. How come our understanding does not compel us into the proper action? And this is what distinguishes two types of cultures. The cultures that were born in this general geographic region of the world, India and all the countries that India has influenced culturally, the concept of understanding implies a whole being enlightenment. In the West, implies a rational or logical understanding. So Socrates said, I can prove what is right and what is wrong. Killing is bad, and yet people kill. How is that possible? Because in the West, the focus was on the rational understanding of consequences of different things that we do. Later on, modern-day ethicists discussing that ethics is just more or less an emotion. We feel disgusted, they say, when we see certain things. Like, for instance, Alistair McIntyre speaks of ethics as an expression of a feeling that I know it overpowers me. There are certain things I cannot do because they go beyond the emotion of a human being. And that is puzzling for me after the 20th century, well described by the Dalai Lama after the Holocaust period and all that, to say that some emotions can overtake me and therefore I will be ethical, it doesn't necessarily work this way. So the concept of metta in Buddhism come as an expression of a whole being, as my entire personality involved in enlightenment. Therefore, we cannot argue in favor or against metta. It can only be practiced. It can only be experienced. It's an existential activity. I will read you in a few minutes the Metta Sutta that is divided into 4 sections, more or less. And then there is a Pali interpretation of the sutta, which they call it the psychology of that. But I'll read it to you in a minute. The concept of metta, or perhaps loving kindness, friendship, the disposition to embrace the neighbor, exists in every culture. Every culture manifests something similar to that. But the difference, again, is that in certain cultures, it remains almost like a political program, a rational discourse on what is the better life, what is the good life. And it becomes a choice. I don't have to pursue that life. I can have a different opinion. A life not examined is not worth living. Who knows? Maybe yes, maybe no. And we can fight for very different things and justify everything we do. And so, in that sense, to keep ethics as a part of life, it becomes difficult. But in the cultures of what we call the East, say India, it is one of the abads of Brahma, which means we cannot avoid the ethical, the moral behavior. We cannot avoid being kind, friendly, and considerate of other people and other beings. If I cease being that, this is no longer metta. It becomes an empty expression. And one of the things that the Buddha was always very much against is the empty rituals, the empty sacraments, that sometimes people feel that they can supplement and sometimes supplant the ethical behavior by praying or by having some good emotions within me. I am exempt from having to perform the deeds of goodness. The Buddha was very much against that. So when he was asked, what do you think of God? Does God exist? He said, what does God have to do with your own liberation? There is no connection between the two. You can believe, but your own liberation depends on practice. And how do we practice? Well, metta you have to practice in deeds of humanity. In the Theravada tradition, metta has obtained actually a more concretely social meaning. For instance, the great Theravadin Buddhadasa Bhikkhu, he was one of the greatest leaders of Theravada Buddhism. He spoke of what he called dhammic socialism. He says we cannot perform the precepts of Buddhism unless it is done in the concept of a socialist society. Because capitalism, from his perspective, denies the basic principles of Buddhism, such as non-attachment, not to compete with other people in any sort of violent way. Is not what he called right livelihood. And you know the right livelihood is one of the eightfold paths of the Buddha. And since we spend most of our lives, each one of us, out of necessity, in activities related to livelihood, it is in livelihood where we manifest metta more than any place else. Going home and playing with my dog and loving it, it's a form of metta, but that's not enough. Because then tomorrow morning I'll go to work and I'm just do all the things that I'm not supposed to do according to the Buddhist precepts. Therefore, there has to be a change in labor, in the way that we work, in the way that we relate to one another, and this is what he called dhammic socialism. In Mahayana Buddhism, the concept of metta sometimes is manifested through the image of the bodhisattva. Bodhisattva exists in all schools of Buddhism, but the Mahayanas made a special meaning of that. traditionally understood as an individual that is able to reach enlightenment here and now, but makes a choice to postpone his own liberation and turns back and says, I have to help all the other beings liberate themselves. If I go into nirvana now, then I'm leaving everybody else suffering. The contemporary philosopher Slavoj Žižek, who you might know, and if you don't, you have to watch him on YouTube because he's an entire character. It's just fun to watch him. Yeah? He had a critique of Buddhism, and he said that bodhisattva means that we believe there is another realm that we have to go to. Well, Buddhism argues that that's not the case. There is only the here and the now. The present is all we have. The past is gone, the future we don't know, we only have the present. But the bodhisattva says, no, we have also a future that I'm going to. That sort of interpretation is incorrect because it misses the point of the concept of metta that is behind the concept of bodhisattva. The bodhisattva doesn't say that me serving other beings is a means to reach another goal. The serving of other beings is the goal. Nirvana is here and now while I'm practicing metta. There is no distinction. The moment I practice metta, I am already an enlightened being. There is nothing else I need to do. There's nothing else I need to reach for. That's what the Dalai Lama says, my religion is compassion. But it's compassion in action. It's not simply empathy. It's something that you must do. If compassion is the feeling for the suffering of other beings, metta is acting on that feeling, translating it into deeds. So the bodhisattva does that. He says, I'm going to save other people, not because of nirvana, because my actions now is the nirvana. The great famous Japanese Zen master, Hakuin, he was a cantankerous kind of fellow, but he was great respected and he was very wise. And he had an expression. He used to say, I hate this do-nothing, the do-nothing Zen. He said, these people go to the monastery, they sit in facing a wall for 15 hours a day, they feel they are enlightened, and then what? He said, they do nothing. That's not enlightenment. He used to tell them, enlightenment can only be actualized in society. Go and do something for other people. So he came up with an idea that is absolutely brilliant in its iconoclastic meaning. He said, we have to bring to Zen a post-Satori training. Satori in Zen means nirvana or enlightenment. Post-Satori, when the idea is if you reach Satori, if you reach that level, you've reached everything. There's nothing else to reach. There's nothing to seek after that because this is the summum bonum. Like in theistic religions, we reach God. There's nothing else. Once you reach God, you reach whatever is this to be reached, and you sit to the right hand of the Lord or to the left hand of the Lord, depending on your preference. But Hakuin said, this is ridiculous. This is no good. It's a do-nothing Zen. I don't like it. Let's do real metta. Let's take these people out of the monastery, go out there, and help others with their enlightenment. Zen has many of these stories of preoccupation with the other. We have a story of Swami Vivekananda, that he died very young, but one day he went to visit his master, Ramakrishna, when Ramakrishna apparently was in his deathbed. And Vivekananda went to him and said, hey, you're about to die, and I still don't think I have reached the spiritual levels that I wanted to reach. And Ramakrishna said to him, shame on you. I thought you were here to help other beings not suffering anymore in this incredibly suffering world, but now I realize you only came here for your own liberation, for your own salvation. And this is an important point, again, made from outside Buddhism, but there's no difference in the practice. The idea was you cannot just simply say, I want to be liberated and it's all within me. The within is an illusion. That's the concept of no self in Buddhism. There is no self. Therefore, when I say everything is within me, is my own energy, I'm going to go deep into myself to find liberation, that's not the case. You find liberation in the relationship with the other. You go deep inside yourself in order to be able to relate in meta relationship, in I and thou with other people. Otherwise, it's do nothing Zen. And almost every religion has the same idea. I'll give you an example of Saint Francis of Assisi, when he said, we go in the world preaching the gospel. And when necessary, we can speak about it too. We can use words. The meaning is you preach through your deeds, through your actions. And there are many Jewish stories to that effect, many that I love very much. In the Hasidic tradition, they have this student that used to get up every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to the house of his rabbi simply to see how he ties his shoelaces. And he said the way that he does things teaches everything. The rest that he says is a commentary. So we're going back to the concept of metta, and my argument is not only because of what's happening with the Rohingyas in Thailand, in Myanmar, but also during the Second World War. The Japanese, deeply steeped in the culture of Zen, were part of the Nazi Axis. And they used to talk about this sort of Zen. We are detached from the desire for life. Therefore, let's go to war. Who cares? That is the wrong application of the idea of Buddha. China was, like the Dalai Lama said before, was a Buddhist country, and then it transformed itself into some kind of a tyrannical nightmare under the rule of Mao Zedong. So what happens? Why do things happen? Why do Christian countries go to the First World War, Second World War, kill each other as if nothing happens? Why is it Islam that preaches peace involving so many acts of violence and terror around the world? Because we have failed to understand that the concept of metta is a concept of deeds. It's a relationship between us. Like this master said, it manifests itself in the mind, it manifests itself in the body, and it has to be applied as a reality of relationship. I just want to read you the famous, it's famous if you read it before, Metta Sutta. And then explain to you, I'm going to read it relatively quickly and explain to you what it means, because it's separated into 4 different themes. I'll read you the first part. The person who seeks to promote his welfare, having been able to glimpse a state of perfect peace, that person should be able, honest and upright, gentle in speech, meek and not proud, contented. He ought to be easy to support, not over busy and simple in living. Tranquil his senses, let him be prudent and not brazen,